Welcome to the EntreEd Talk podcast, the show by educators, for educators, parents, and the community. We're so excited to bring this to you. I'm Toi.
And I'm Laura, and we're excited to uplift best practices in entrepreneurship education.
And don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe to the EntreEd Talk podcast on whatever platform you listen. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another fantastic episode of EntreEd Talk podcast. We are very excited today to have Jarie Bolander with us. Jarie is an engineer by training and an entrepreneur by nature with over 20 years of experience bringing innovative products to market. He holds a degree in electrical engineering and an MBA in technology management. He is also an inventor or co-inventor on over 10 patents and has published 4 books, Frustration-Free Management, #Endurance Tweet, A Little Nudge to Keep You Going, Business Basics for Entrepreneurs, and his newest book, The Entrepreneur Ethos. Jarie also publishes a blog called The Daily MBA. We are so excited to have you, Jarie. Thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I am so looking forward to the conversation. I know we had talked a little bit last week, and I just was impressed by what you guys are doing, and so can't wait to talk more about it.
Yeah, we are so excited. We had a really great conversation, and we had to cut it off because I didn't want to spoil this experience. So before we dive in, we always like to ask our guests to share a little bit about their own personal journeys. And so tell us a little bit about where you started and kind of how you got to where you are today, and then we will talk about all those pieces after.
Oh, yeah, great. Yeah. So, I mean, what's really interesting is like today, right now, I run a PR and marketing firm called JSY PR and Marketing. And if you would have looked at my, career experience, what I do for a living, there's no way in the entire world you'd ever guess I'd be a PR and marketing maven, as they say. And the reason why I do that is because of my late wife, Jane, who died of leukemia almost 3 years ago, actually 3 years, April 3rd. And I had to actually take over her PR and marketing business when she got sick, because when you have leukemia, you have no immune system. You have to self-isolate, you got to wear masks, similar to what we're doing now, because we're going through the COVID-19 thing. So it was a huge disruption to our life and to my career, actually. But what was really brilliant about that in some ways is that one of the things that I really love to do is tell stories. And I feel that the people, organization, company, brand that tells the best story wins. And so when I was, going through this tough time in my life and trying to figure out how to help clients tell better stories, I started to write my own. And part of that story and part of Jane's story, who was my late wife, and part of my story today is to help those folks that can't get access to entrepreneurial education or mentorship, some resources to help them out. That's why I wrote the book, The Entrepreneur Ethos. That's why I do what I do now with professional athletes, where we do entrepreneur camps. It's a zig and zag kind of road, as most entrepreneurs have. Again, if you would have known me 20 years ago, they would be like, there's just no way you're going to be a communications professional. Like you could barely put 2 words together. But you adapt, you learn, you overcome, you become comfortable being uncomfortable with things. And so now, as I live my life and, trying to help others with the entrepreneurial mindset and the entrepreneurial journey, I'm grounded in the fact that, I came from not only an engineering background, but, with my late wife, Jane, and now even with, my fiance now, Minerva, who has taught me also a lot about communication. And in fact, she actually just wrote an article about how to communicate over video, because like everyone in the world's doing that now. We all live in Zoom or WebEx, right? So yeah, it's a little bit about me, and I'm sure we'll get into more.
I like to be, surprised. And I think it's funny. You probably surprise a lot of friends you're saying when, over those beers are like, you do what?
Yeah.
Surprising growth are always good things, right?
Exactly.
You mentioned your camp. Would you tell us a little bit about the Founders Camp and the work you're doing with kids in Memphis?
Yeah, sure. So I work with a professional athlete. He plays football. His name's Dontari Poe. He's from Memphis, Tennessee. Went to the University of Memphis and got drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs, I think in 2012 or something. I don't remember exactly, but he's probably going to give me a hard time for that. But now he was playing for Carolina, and now it looks like he's going to play for the Dallas Cowboys. And so, he's a Memphis hometown hero, especially for kids in southeastern Memphis, where it's some of the most poorest zip codes in the entire nation. And if you've ever been to Memphis, there's the Beale Street, Memphis, and then there's the rest of Memphis. And so we partnered with the University of Memphis and their entrepreneur program, their Cruise Center for Entrepreneurship, which is just a great bunch of people. They really get the vision of what we're trying to do. And for 3 days during the summer, we teach middle school to high school kids about entrepreneurship. And we also partner with a local accelerator, which is a place where startups go to kind of boost their business, called StartCo. And they're a great bunch of people as well. And they give us entrepreneurs to help mentor the kids. And on the last day, we run this thing called Founder for a Day, where the entrepreneurs actually teach the kids how to pitch their company. So the kids become, CTO, CEO, CMO for a day. And what's beautiful about that is that not only do the kids learn a ton about how to pitch a company, which is kind of what we focus on, like how do you say an idea? How do you tell a story? What's going to resonate with people? But the founders get a tremendous amount out of it as well, because when you have to teach, a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old about your medical device company that's got so much buzzword bingo technology I mean, like I have a degree in engineering. I can't sometimes figure it out. They come away with a greater sense of, I really need to make this so like my grandmother can understand it. And as we go through the process in this 3-day camp, which doesn't seem like a lot of time, the transformation in these kids is stellar. I mean, they go from not wanting to talk to pitching a company to win a prize in front of 50 people, including investors, and they're crushing it. It's like, yeah, invest in my company, and you're like, whoa, okay, now this is the power of not only power of mentorship, the power of focus, the power of giving people opportunity, but also the power of like believing in these kids. I mean, there's no person on the planet that can't benefit from entrepreneurial skills. There's no person on the planet that can't do it. It's not that hard a job. I mean, to do, it's hard to be successful, right?
You gotta put yourself out of a job, careful.
Yeah. Well, if I did, that would be great, because then I'd go do something else. But yeah, so that's Founders Camp. And, Dontari Poe has been just instrumental in that. He gets it. He understands how important it is for these kids to get exposed to different things and opportunity. Opportunity is one of the most powerful things that you can give someone. And, that's what we're trying to do.
That's incredible. I want to back up to a line that you just said that maybe you can elaborate on a little bit. There's no person that can't benefit from entrepreneurial skills. And on EntreEd, we're all about that. So I wonder maybe if you could elaborate on a couple of the skills that are beneficial and why they're beneficial to, humanity.
Yeah. So, in the book, The Entrepreneur Ethos, I go through the traits, values, and beliefs of the entrepreneur community. And I interviewed, 50, 60 different entrepreneurs, did a bunch of research, and found that there were some consistent, of these traits, values, and beliefs. And one of them is self-belief. And the interesting thing about self-belief is that when you believe, it's easier to have other people believe. If you don't believe in what you're doing, chances are no one else will. So as a life skill, within reason, I mean, you can't be arrogant. You can't be like, hey, I'm going to be an NFL player and, you're 5'2", 110. I mean, that's not going to happen. But believing that you can do something, believing in yourself and having a good kind of meter on the reality of that, every human should feel that. And the reason is when you engage with with yourself that way, and you internally know that it's possible, then you can manifest it. And it may not manifest in the ways like, oh, I want to be a billionaire. I mean, those metrics, are fleeting. The external world doesn't really matter in the entrepreneur space. It's a way we keep score, but this is such a hard job that most of us don't make it. So you have to have the self-belief that what you're doing is going to work. So there's self-belief, there's the ability to hustle, and hustle not in a bad way, but in a good way, like seeing an opportunity and trying to take advantage of it, seeking the truth, being data-driven. A lot of times people will make bad decisions because, oh, my gut says this or my gut says that. And that's fine to feel, but your gut should be backed up by data because data, ultimately, the world runs on data. So those are just a few, but I really think that the self-belief, the self-confidence, the ability to handle uncomfortable situations is important. A lot of people are not comfortable being uncomfortable. And as an entrepreneur, that's your daily job. So stuff like that.
Isn't it Eleanor Roosevelt, I think, that said, do something that scares you every day? I'm completely misquoting her quote.
Well, we can just make you, now you're the one that quoted it.
Something about let your imagination run away with you every day.
Totally.
Something that scares me every day. It's called breakfast.
I'm curious, Jarie, so you've touched on a lot of this with the camp and in your book. Tell me about skills. You've mentioned a lot of them. How do we transfer those skills that you're mentioning to students? How do you go about it? What do you think we should be doing?
Yeah. So a lot of it has to do with actual doing things. So it is not very common event for a kid in the inner city or even in Appalachia or in the middle of nowhere, wherever he was, to pitch an idea. Now, they do pitch ideas because they got to convince their mom to buy something or their dad. I mean, everyone is trying to sell or get their way, right? I mean, universal human truth. Hey, mom, I really want this toy. Well, why do you want the toy? And you got to pitch, why do you want the toy? So the skills of persuasion, the skills of communication are ones that you just have to practice. And the way that I think is the best way to do that is to do it, and to do it with people that are a little ahead of you. So why we choose to pick entrepreneurs and not have the kids make up their own idea is because most ideas are bad. I come up with maybe 10 ideas a day and they're pretty much all bad, right? But I'm coming up with ideas and I need to know how to evaluate ideas. And I need to know if my ideas are good. And how do I know if my idea is good? Well, I try to convince someone my idea is good. So through the process, and it's a mentorship, it's coaching, it's the training, it's the, how do you tell a story, right? So I think that by doing is probably the most important way to do it. And by doing, when we can actually get together and the same within 6 feet of each other, kids, at least I've found, are just sponges for this sort of stuff because they see things on Shark Tank, or they know some of their hero athletes are investors. They've heard Silicon Valley. They've heard of all these things. I mean, the world's so connected. We kind of know all this, but the real thing for me is, get up in front of a group of people and convince them that your idea is a good idea. And there's ways to do that. We have a method in our program. We use story structure, the universal truth of story. We use sort of the 3 parts of a story. And we also use the hero's journey, which is, universal monomyth. We've been telling stories around campfires for thousands and thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. I mean, that's how we survived. Each one of us, our ancestors told a better story because saber-toothed tiger didn't eat us, right? We're here. Whether you believe that or not, but it's through, I think it's doing. I mean, you can read about it and you can learn, and it's always good. I mean, I write books, I read a lot. It's always good to have that experience, but boy, there's nothing like getting up in front of a group of 50 people, 10 judges that are investors and professional athletes, and trying to convince them that your great idea is worth money. Nothing like it. Scary, but beneficial.
I want to come to your camp. Can I come?
Yeah. We actually have some parents that come, and they, everyone's welcome to, stay. Hey, yeah, sure, no problem. Because
Laura and I are tiny. We could pass off as kids.
They are. Two of us may pass off as one kid.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't say that, but you can say that, but I won't say that.
Hi all, we are super excited to offer an exclusive discount for our listeners to attend this year's EntreEd Forum taking place on November 18th and 19th in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We have an incredible lineup of speakers and experiential learning opportunities to help you ignite entrepreneurial thinking and integrate entrepreneurship into your learning communities. Use promo code EntreEd Talk to receive 5% off of every individual registration. Again, that's promo code EntreEd Talk. To learn more about the forum and register, visit www.entre-ed.org today and subscribe for updates as we launch new things happening every week as part of the planning for the forum. Thanks. See you there.
I want to talk about your book, and I believe it's also the framework kind of for the camp as well. But I would love for you to talk more about that. But I was wondering the Entrepreneur Ethos, if that's part of that ethos, pathos, the hero's journey. That came to mind when I saw that name. So it's
oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, so the idea for the book and the title, I stole from Stephen Pressfield, and he wrote a book called The Warrior's Ethos. He also wrote a book called The War of Art, which is one of the best books on creativity, hands down. Just it's required reading for any entrepreneur or creative. Best book on the internal resistance and the struggle to creativity. And so The War of Art.
Writing it down.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone should read that. It's a great book. So, all this story stuff and the pathos, ethos, and logos and all that sort of thing. I learned all this from the Story Grid, which I happen to be a certified Story Grid editor. And, I go to all a lot of their seminars, and it's just really a good framework for writing and storytelling. And so actually the first event I ever went to with Story Grid was in New York City, February 2017, during a blizzard.
I was there.
Yeah.
Oh, it was awful. No, actually, it could be in New York because they did your sidewalks and you just got to watch the snow outside.
Yeah. So, I'm from San Francisco. Like, we visit snow. We don't live in snow. Snow is not where, civilized people live. Just, I'm kidding, but I'm weak and worthless like that way. So, but I go to this seminar, it's a great thing. And I'm like, I'm really, very into this because it's kind of like very analytical, and I'm an analytical person. So I'm in this seminar, we're talking about stuff, and literally Stephen Pressfield's at this seminar with me. And he's like my writing hero. There's him and Seth Godin, which they were both there, which I mean,
yeah,
I'm sitting there going, I can't believe two people that have influenced my writing as much is there. So, and I'm writing the book, The Entrepreneur Ethos, which I stole the idea title from The Warrior's Ethos that Stephen Pressfield wrote, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, wow, I should be ethical and say, you inspired me to do this. I take a picture with him. I say, hey, I'm writing this book called Entrepreneur Ethos and you inspired me. And he's like, oh, great. I can't wait to read it and steal it back. So I'm like, oh.
The take, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing, right? When I came up with the idea, inspired by the Warrior Ethos and inspired by actually a lot of special operations and very high level performing groups, they have an ethos. They have the highest level that you want to achieve or what you aspire to. This is the standard, the highest form of standard. Not unlike ethics, which for me, ethics is like the low bar. So there's the low bar and the high bar. Ethics to me is the low bar. Ethos is the highest attainable bar. If I wanted to be the best entrepreneur I could be, I'm going to look to the people that I think are living an ethos. And so, yeah, part of the hero's journey, and which I attempted to try to do in the book, and I did use the Story Grid methodology to help with it, is that, the entrepreneur as a hero going through the challenges that they go through is really important for them to have a guiding principle. All all heroes are flawed. All heroes have a group of people that get together with them. They've got their, fellowship of the ring, so to speak. They fight a villain. They're trying to save a victim. I mean, it's classical monomyth story structure that I think as entrepreneurs, we live every day. I mean, we battle the dragons and the demons, which are the status quo. I mean, no one wants to see our stuff in the world. No, I mean, we have to convince people that what we're working on matters. Just like an artist, except for an artist, they can do their art for them, which is great. But, we have another motivation. Like, we want to do our art. We want to create our products, but we also want to get paid. And that's still a noble endeavor.
So you're an educator on many levels. You not think of yourself as an educator.
Oh, come on.
Well, what would you say? What do you say to teachers who are in the trenches? And often, Toi and I talked about this even this morning on a conference call. Traditional education can be very frustrating.
Yeah.
How do we get to teachers to help inspire them? What do you do personally to inspire teachers? Have you ever done that or try to do that and get them thinking differently?
Well, I think the thing that's really great about the program that we do, with the University of Memphis, who are entrepreneur educators, at the both undergraduate and graduate level, is when people come in and see the excitement in the kids and the engagement, it's game changing. Because what's the most powerful thing a teacher can do is inspire someone to learn something new and be excited about it. So it's fun for them too, as opposed to droning on about Common Core math or structure of a sentence, whatever. I mean, they have a hard job, believe me. Trying to just teach, my fiance's 10-year-old who's now has to be homeschooled because the world's shut down. It's the hardest, really tough to do that. And you have to have new and creative ways to engage, right? So when you can engage with a student, their whole world opens up. And then now as the teacher, your world opens up. So when we first start this, the journey with them, none of these kids want to get up in front of a group of people and say who they are. I mean, they're like, how often does that happen? Usually they're like, traditional, be quiet and listen to what I have to say. And we turn it around and we say, no, we're going to treat you like entrepreneurs. Your ideas matter. And when they get the engagement, it's hard to put in words how, I get kind of emotional about it, because when you see the spark in a young person who traditionally has never even knew what a pitch was or what a marketing plan was or any of these things where they kind of hear about, but they had never had exposure to it. And then it clicks in their mind like, oh, this is like. It's why wouldn't you want every single one of your students to be that engaged? Because if they're engaged with stuff like that, then it's a lot easier to say like, well, it's really important that you learn how to write. And you're like, well, why? Well, if you're going to pitch a investor, you have to have clear, concise, and compelling communication. How do you think you do that? Oh, I guess I should be able to write. You need to be able to read a lot. Well, why do I need to read a lot? Because you have to know your competition. Well, I guess I should be able to read. Oh, what about math? Stuff like that, right? Like, well, math. You need a financial model. What's financial? That's math. And I know I have friends that are teachers, and there's a lot of burden on teachers to do almost the impossible in terms of trying to motivate their students. And they get a huge, wide distribution of kids that are from different types of families with different types of conditions. And, they got to worry about not only the education part, but they got to worry about the social part. They got to worry about the safety. They got to worry about their health and wellness. It's a complex dynamic. If you are an educator, and I think you probably know this in your gut, the more excited you can get students about any kind of learning, that's like a wedge to have them on a different journey. If you can get them excited about reading, get them excited about math, get them excited about entrepreneurship, because then you can start to slowly say, well, you're excited about this. What about this? Enthusiasm is contagious, right? So I'm biased because I'm an entrepreneur, and I can't see me doing anything other than being an entrepreneur and honestly being of service by helping others trying to be better entrepreneurs. Frankly, that's just what I'm trying to do. But as you know, the skeptical, like, let's say we're talking to a skeptical educator who is overburdened, who has got not a lot of resources, who is just constantly getting droned about one more thing I've got to cram down these little kids. And then I got to figure out behavior problem. Just this huge, like, it's almost untenable, to be honest, right? The ones that kind of navigate that, I think will really understand the power of inspiration and motivation and getting people jazzed about the subject. And they know that in their gut. It's just they're too overworked. So I would say that, I mean, the tools, the tips, tools, and techniques, the traits, values, and beliefs of the entrepreneur mindset, as applied to being a teacher, as applied to trying to motivate their students, I think they can grab a lot from that crosses over. So yeah, it's a hard question to answer, but I think, again, if you can inspire your students, then you're going to get them to learn way more than just entrepreneurship. So that would be my take.
Yeah, we try to engage with teachers in that way as well, because when we do our program, we want you to give every kid in your building some kind of entrepreneurial experience or exposure in the course of the school year. And immediately that's like what do you mean? Every kid, I teach business ed. And so it's like, no, we're saying in math, what could you do? And what happens with entrepreneurship, we find, is that entrepreneurship piece makes whatever you're teaching relevant, which starts that engagement, like what you're saying. It just really, it's such an important thing. And when teachers try something and then the teachers are inspired, back to what you're saying about enthusiasm, it rolls downhill, right? If the teacher's excited and, that was a really cool activity and the kids were engaged, I want to do more of that. And it starts to shift the way that, the classroom operates, and then largely, the school operates, because it does, it infects everything. And that's in a good way. I don't use that term infection right now.
Yeah, we need to be a little cautious about that.
But yeah, so I got your book and I didn't read all of it, but and I want to look at this one chapter because I love the title of it. You have one that's Dents in the Universe. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Dents in the Universe was a term that Steve Jobs used, where he inspired people to go make their dent in the universe. And that portion of the book is, in my opinion, some of the dents in the universe that a lot of companies have made. And I tried to have a nice kind of distribution of different types of companies, because you can all be tech or whatever. But the thing that's interesting about entrepreneurs, right, is they literally have the audacity to say, I can change the world. And a lot of them do, right? And everything, I mean, even what we're on right now, this Zoom, right? Some entrepreneur figured out that, this video conferencing thing may be a good idea. Like 10 years ago, come on, who would even care, right? Nobody, even Facebook, even an Uber as an example, or a Lyft, right? Who would have thought 6 years ago that didn't exist? Right? Everyone got a cab, right? And so these dents in the universe, they transform the way we work. I mean, just imagine if the infrastructure for the internet, for streaming, for video, for remote work didn't exist, and the COVID-19 pandemic happened. Just imagine how much worse off we would be. And, you could say, okay, well, the government funded the internet, which they did, right? DARPA, ARPA grant or whatever. But it was entrepreneurs, and it was the generation of ideas and this innovation that sort of expanded what we could do. I mean, who would have thought that you would want to put a camera on a phone. Like, I remember when I first saw a camera on a phone, I'm like, that's the dumbest idea ever. Why would I ever need a camera on a phone? Well, now I can video chat, I can FaceTime, I can WeChat or whatever.
Made me change my clothes out of my pajamas is what
Yeah, exactly. Now I gotta get dressed, you know? But yeah, I mean, so these dents in the universe, they change the world, they change humanity. And it's not just technology that are these dents in the universe. I mean, if you go back through time, you look at the printing press, you look at the steam engine, you look at internal combustion engine, you look at just revolutionary technologies that have, you know, changed the game, and changed the game by meaning, you know, making us more productive, being, you know, interstate highway system, solar panels, like all these things. You know, it'll be possible soon that we won't need, potentially, we won't need fossil fuel. I mean, could happen. I mean, you know, 20 years ago, would that have happened? Who knows? But totally possible. Totally possible that one day we'd never have to drive a car, like autonomous vehicles.
Oh, I can't wait to get my robot car. Oh, my brother got
Who would have thought?
I want a robot car so bad.
Yeah. But who would have thought, right? Who would have thought? Or even, you know, even when it comes to, you know, like global warming, you know, as an example, let's just say, you know, hey, don't know why it's happening. We do scientifically, but like just fixing that. How do you fix that? How do you, you know, there's all sorts of technologies that are just coming online, and it's expanding rapidly, and it's expanding at an exponential rate. I mean, it's incredible. Even food sources, even like, you know, fake meat or like synthesized meat. I mean, imagine, you know, you don't need cows anymore. Like, we'll just make meat. It's crazy, but it's possible, right? And even this COVID-19 thing, I mean, there are some really smart people working really hard to figure out vaccines and treatments, and they've got all this manufacturing that's moving towards making respirators and ventilators and masks. And I mean, truly the world, you know, there'll be some politics and stuff, but which just has to happen. But in reality, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of government people, a lot of professional doctors, and people are coming together to solve a problem. And that's what entrepreneurs do. Like, we solve problems for the world. And in the, you know, along the way, we build this independent life that completes us, because that's what we do. We're the ones that society has given the honor of, the absolute honor. It's an honor you got to earn every single day to go out in the world, take chances, and make the world a better place. That's our job. So it's a tough job, and it's an honor to do it.
I have a burning question.
Sure.
You use some great words, transformative, and I like the word mentoring. I like the word compass.
Mm-hmm.
So where'd you get that? You've mentioned Seth Godin and Stephen Pressfield for your writing, but where did you get, who are some of your mentors, your belief system?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great, insightful question, because you never take the journey alone, right? I firmly believe that, you know, we are the synthesis of the people and the influences around us. And, you know, I mean, I grew up in a middle-class family. You know, dad had a good job working at United Airlines. Mom stayed home till we were old enough to go to school. And then, you know, she worked, and, you know, we were latchkey kids. You know, I'm Gen X, so, you know, that's the first, but not in a bad way. I mean, you know, they both had to work, because, you know, we were middle class, and, you know, there was three boys to feed. So, I would say that, from my family, my grandmother, my mom's mom, was one of a really big influence in my life. She always wanted to be an entrepreneur and a business person, but never quite got around to it. Although we would talk a lot about that. They originally were in the Netherlands during World War II. So my mom's from the Netherlands, and they went through some really tough times with the Nazi occupation, and they wouldn't talk too much about it, but, you know, occasionally my grandfather, who was in the Dutch underground, was on the lam for 2 or 3 years, because he's like, I don't want to be in the German army. So, he was actually at for those of you that are World War II buffs, he was actually at the Battle of Ardennes, which is the movie A Bridge Too Far. And I never knew that until I'm like, hold on, like Ardennes? He's like, yeah. I'm like, really? So anyway, that's a very famous battle. But I think it was them. I mean, my dad and my mom worked really hard. My dad came from Kansas, worked on a farm. We just worked. I mean, we literally worked by the time we were 8, 9, and 10, helping around the house and stuff. And I just felt that, as I was growing up and going to school, I just had a lot of great people around me, friends and family. And, there was an entrepreneur mindset, although my parents weren't really entrepreneurial. I, for whatever reason, got the bug. And then I got lucky. I get lucky a lot. And I got out of school and, I went to school in Silicon Valley at San Jose State. And went to a startup and just had a great experience and had a bunch of, good mentors and people teaching me the ropes. And really, I made a lot of mistakes, but I was in a place where making mistakes is part of part of life. And I just sort of realized that as time went on, that this job is not really a job. It's kind of like a lifestyle. I wouldn't call it a calling, although for some people it is. But for me, I just felt the best way to help people was to go make stuff, invent stuff. And not that everything you make is altruistic, not that everything you make, is like, oh, I made this, talking toy. Oh, the world's a better place. Well, maybe not, but it just, when I was coming up, I had people that believed in me. I had people that taught me things, and I was really open to learn about it. And when you put yourself out there like that, the world sort of opens up. And that's why I feel very strongly, why I wrote the Entrepreneur Ethos book, why I'm now doing the Entrepreneur Ethos podcast to kind of have conversations like we're having right now. I really felt that the reason why it all works is because people give back. And the reason why it works is because there's people that mentor, teach, and coach us. And every level of our life, no matter who we are, no matter where we come from, we can be a mentor, coach, or teacher to someone that's maybe a little behind us, maybe a little ahead of us. And when I saw the power of that and what happens when a bunch of like-minded people come together to try to change the world, I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's what I got to do. And I think most people inherently will want to do that. Some people are selfish and some people aren't very nice and can't get away from that. But most people, if you say, hey, can you help me out? Yeah, they'll help you out. So
that's beautiful.
Just seeing all that.
Well, we feel like in our little arena or microcosm, I don't know what it is, with entrepreneurship education, because it's kind of a weird thing. Like, can you teach entrepreneurship? Well, maybe, but you can definitely teach those mindsets and those things that will propel that person, like give them the self-efficacy to say, oh, you know what, that looks like a cool opportunity. I'm going to go check that out. And so we feel kind of like a big family in this arena. Anytime we go to conferences, meet new people, that's what I really love about it, because I've not yet come up on someone that's trying to like get in my space. It's okay, what can we do together so that everybody benefits from this? Because I think we're all trying to pursue the greater good, and especially with kids and mentorship and things like that. So I think that's so beautiful that you said that. And this has been a wonderful conversation, but we're coming to the sort of end of our time. We like to keep this at like a commutable. Where
do you commute?
That
We're
might
going home right now doing laps.
Yeah, we're just doing laps around the house now.
I'm making dinner time now. It's like,
okay. Yeah, actually a lot of people are making dinner now for sure.
I know I am, and I don't know what I'm doing. So
thank God for the internet.
Jarie, this has been such a great conversation, and we will make sure to put in the show notes all of your books and your podcast and your blog. Anything else that people need to know if they wanted to connect with you further and learn more about the awesome things that you're doing?
Wow, that's a pretty tall order. I'd say, just started Entrepreneur Ethos podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, all places where you get podcasts. Literally started it on March 16th, which was my mother's birthday and the first day of the shelter-in-place order in San Francisco. So, timing, we'll see. But perfect timing, right? Entrepreneurs, that's one thing we try to get right. Just the blog. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much everywhere that you can find an entrepreneur. But I think it's just really, for me, I like to give back, and I think how I'm giving back is, a pretty good way to give back by writing books and having these conversations and trying to teach people what I know. So if you are someone that was thinking, hey, maybe this might not be for me, entrepreneurship, or a little bit apprehensive, I'd say, give it a shot. This is probably one of the only communities where, failure is not an option, or in more sense, failure may be a reality, but it's not the final answer. It's a community where we embrace those that take a chance. So take a chance and see what you see.
Thank you. We love people who live their values. Thank you.
I try every day.
It's amazing.
Well, thank you so much for what you do. And I hope that we can continue the conversation and maybe do a second wave of podcast with you at some point, because you've just been, I could listen to you all day.
Oh, wow. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. And would love to do it. And everyone stay safe out there.
Thanks, Jarie.